We continue our national championship coverage in Frisco, Texas. Our own Lee Timmerman is live down there now. Now, LT, the whole state has fallen in love with this Bison team. Can you tell us a little bit more about their competition tomorrow? LT, well, I guess what happens in Texas stays in Texas. We will not ask you about those beads. It's that time of the year again. 28 schools representing 4 different states, all packed into the Bismarck Civic Center. The Bismarck Rotary Club Wrestling Tournament got underway today. While I was at an early season Saints game, a random spectator told me they'd be the best show in town all season long. Well, that buzz got around to the Century campus, so when the two teams faced each other on January 20th, the Patriots had something to prove. The matchup resulted in what would be the best game of the season thus far. Tonight, the two heavyweights faced off again.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, Jason, happy Super Bowl Sunday.
I know. Hopefully it's going to be a great game.
I think so.
Americans, we love us some football. Of the 4 major sports, it's the NFL that generates the most money. Fans, they'll go to great lengths to watch their team play. From weathering harsh winter elements to draining the savings account to fly across country and attend a game. A diehard football fan will support their team by any means necessary. Well, that has been on full display this week leading up to the Super Bowl. NBC's Ron Mott reports. CenturyLink Field. It's home to the Seattle Seahawks. It is also home to the loudest fans in the National Football League. The noise the Seahawks faithful make at CenturyLink week in and week out has been well documented. But what you may not know, one of the Seahawks' best players can barely hear any of that noise. NBC's Joe Fryer reports.
Jason, you're wearing orange today. You know what that means.
Syracuse won. You know, this is the thick of the college basketball season. Exciting time.
There we go.
A 14-5 record, the 46th ranked RPI, and the 66th ranked strength of schedule in the nation. A quality win over Notre Dame in South Bend. That is the current resume for NDSU. Pretty solid, but there's still a lot of work to be done to get an invite to the big dance. Today, the Bison continued working on that resume on the road against a rival, SDSU. Now let's switch gears to basketball. It's been a long weekend for the Marauders basketball program. After some recent success, both the men's and women's teams were swept on this weekend's road trip. Let's take a look back at last night's matchup against Concordia St. Paul. The Bobcats are in the midst of a tight Central Division race. Just 1 point separates 3 teams for the division lead. Bismarck didn't do itself any favors as it lost last night in a shootout to one of those teams, the Aberdeen Wings. Tonight, the Bobcats look to get back on track as they hosted the Brookings Blues. There were 16 Class B boys basketball teams in town today, but of all those teams, only one of them entered the weekend ranked in the top 10 of the latest Class B polls. That's the Shiloh Christian Skyhawks. Tonight, the Skyhawks took on the Killdeer Cowboys. Yes, wrestling. It was a packed house tonight.
I bet.
There are 5 current high schools with athletic programs in the Bismarck-Mandan area. And while there are rivalries amongst them all, it is no secret what the biggest one is. Century versus Bismarck. It always generates a buzz. And tonight, the 2 schools faced off on the wrestling match. Everyone, it was a great weekend for the University of Mary basketball programs. Both the men and women swept its weekend series. It was the first time this season the men's and women's swept conference games in the same weekend. The women, they've been pretty steady all season long, but this was a breakout weekend for the men who had been struggling this month. Let's take a look back at last night's matchups against Minnesota Duluth.